ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे. We are in our Eternal Wisdom series. We've been seeing a lot of things starting from how eternal is eternal. We went on to understanding what is making Vedas our pramanas. We learnt about the Vedangas. We have gone into the tip of the iceberg of a few of them. We've learnt about Vyakarana, we've learnt about Nirukta. In this series, in the previous session, we also saw a bit of mathematics. How mathematics is embedded in our sloka structure. There are many methods. We learned one of the concepts called Katapayadi in the previous session. So today we will be going into some of the details of Chandas as a Vedanga. Okay. So before we go on to that, let's just recite a few slokas that we've learned, just as a recap. So the sloka from Mahabharata was Dharme cha arte cha kame cha mokshe cha Bharadarshava itihasti tadanyatra yennehasti natat kvachit. So we've learnt about the Upanishads, a sloka which can help us remind the series of Upanishads. We also learned the sloka of why Vyakarana is important, why grammar is important. We learnt about the Krishna sloka in Mukunda Mala, which applies to all the vibhaktis in Sanskritam. So, Krishne, Krishnam, Krishnaya, Krishnasya, Krishne, Hey Krishna, everything we learnt. And then we went on to Nirukta, which is where we understood about the origin of the words. And then into the Katapayadi Sankhya, we learned this Krishna sloka. Maybe we can recite this. Gopi Bhagya Madhuvrata Sringi Shodadi Sandhiga Kalajivita Khatava Galahalara Sandhara. So this was the sloka which gave us the value of pi to 31 decimal digits, right? So that was applying the Katapayadi Sankhya to it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. So then we learnt about the Sangeeta Shastra, where every name also applied to, when we reversed it, we could get the Katapayadi Sankhya. Okay. We could find out the number of every single Melakarta Raga given the name of it by applying the Katapayadi Sankhya. We went into the Vedic mathematics also. So, any questions on these before we go on to our Chandas today? Chandas is the feet of Vedas. I don't know why it's moving on. So, Chandas is the feet of Vedas. So, why is it called as the feet of Vedas? Because it is the foundation. Okay. So, Chanda Shastra is the foundation of everything. Therefore, it is called as the feet of the Veda Purusha. Now, because it is the foundation, how does it help us? It gives the structure, the rhythm to the Veda mantras. So, if there is any mistake by applying the Chandas, we can find out, no, this is not rhyming properly, there's something wrong. And people could identify what was the mistake and correct it. Earlier, we learnt about the Shiksha Shastra, right? What was the problem? Any problem, we could identify it with the Shiksha Shastra and fix it. Similarly, the Chandas could also be used to fix it. So here, if we look at the Chanda Shastra, can I keep it here so that my shadow will not affect it? Is it better? Okay. So here, Chanda Shastra was used in the Veda mantras originally. Okay. So if you look at any of the Veda mantras, it had some prominent 7 different chandas that was used. Gayatri Chandas, we are quite familiar with it. 24 aksharas should be there. So when the aksharas It had to be in 3 verses. All these were rules for Gayatri Chandas. We had the Ushni Chandas, Anushtup Chandas. We all are quite familiar with Anushtup Chandas, Brihati Chandas, Pankti Chandas, Trishtup Chandas, Jagati. These are the 7 major Chandas that is applied in our Veda mantras. And originally, these Veda mantras were only for, the practice of Vedas, the meters were confirmed, everything was like that. And then it came to humans. Okay, I'm going to explain how it came to humans, how we all are using the poetry today, which is a very interesting thing. And then we had many famous kavis, many mahakavyas, everything followed this poetic pattern because it was very useful in memorizing things. Whenever we want to memorize something, it is easy if it is in the form of a song, if it's in the form of a poetry, right? So people brought in a lot of chandas, the meters, into poetry, right? So one very interesting chandas is by our poet Kālidāsa. Okay, Kālidāsa was a poet in Bhoja king's Rajya. Okay, and they used to have a lot of discussion about poetry and everything. And Kālidāsa was known to be absent from the discussions most of the time. Okay, so one day Bhoja Maharaja had asked people to write a sloka where the last pankti, the final pankti, was ka ka ga ga. Okay, so ka ka ga ga should be the last pankti, says Bhojaraja. Now everybody is discussing how can we make sense, because ka ka ga ga, they are just alphabets. How do we make a poetry out of these alphabets? So the discussion goes on. The next day everybody is supposed to submit it. They all are discussing what do we do, what do we do, and Kālidāsa was absent. So he's like, what is happening? And then they say that, we are supposed to go submit this. So what are we supposed to do? And Kālidāsa says, oh, okay. And then he walks. He sees this little girl on his way. So he is discussing with her. Katvam Bale, who are you, a child? She says, Kanchana Mala. My name is Kanchana Mala. Kasya Putri, whose daughter are you? And then the child says, Kanakalatayaha. I am Kanakalata's daughter. Haste kimte, what are you holding in your hand? The kid says, Tali Patram. I'm holding a slate in my hand. Kava Rekha, what have you written in that? And then she shows, Kaka Gaga. So she's written Kaka Gaga. So Kālidāsa remembers this. When he comes to the court, they all are asking, okay, have anybody completed, your assignments? Now Kālidāsa says, whatever was his conversation as a poetry itself. Katvam bhale kanchanamala kasya putri kanakalataya haste kinte talipatram khavareka kaka gaga. Because this becomes one beautiful poetry which is following the Anushtup Chandas. 8 aksharas in every phrase. Katvam bhale kanchanamala kasya putri kanakalataya. Everything follows a pattern. This is a sloka and Anushtup. Everybody is surprised and he says, for this we don't even have to think. A small conversation is sufficient to bring out a poetry. Okay. So at one point of time, Bhoja Maharaja decides to confer a title on Kālidāsa, Kavi Chakravarti Kālidāsa. Now in the court, everybody is like, why should he be Kavi Chakravarti? Everybody is learned, everybody is a Kavi there, right? So why should Kālidāsa be given the title? Bhoja Maharaja is always partial to Kālidāsa. So Bhoja Maharaja says, okay, let me be neutral. Today, I will give you another final pankti. Whoever completes the pankti, is supposed to be the Kavi Chakravarti. As usual, Kālidāsa is not there. So he's not even aware of what is going on. So Raja here now says, the ending should be tadan tadan tan tadadan tadan dan. Okay, so that should be the ending phrase of this sloka. Now, what is happening is like, at least kaka gaga, was some consonants we could make a meaningful sloka. What is just tadan, dadan, dun, 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 dun? All this is so confusing. So Kālidāsa comes to know about it. And then he creates a sloka then and there. He says, Raja Abhisheke Mahavihvalayaha Hastachyuto Hemagatam Tarunyaha sopana margeshu karoti shabdam tadandadandan dadadandadandan, he says. So what he says, Rajabhisheke madavah vilayaha. There is one princess, she is going to have her coronation of her beloved. So Rajabhishekam is going to happen to her beloved. So she is like, so happy, so excited. Her mind is not stable because she's like, oh, my beloved is now going to have the Rajabhishekam. So she's thinking about it all the time. She has this Hema Gata, a beautiful golden pot in her hand. She goes to fetch water for this Rajabhishekam. So personally, she goes to bring the water. Now, because her mind is so intoxicated with the feel that her beloved is going to be the king, the golden pot slips away from her hand and it falls on the steps. How is the sound when the golden vessel falls on the steps? Tadan, tadan, dan, dadadan, dadan, dan, it falls on the floor. So that was the Kavita that Kālidāsa wrote. And then he became the Kavi Chakravarti Kālidāsa. Shall we recite this sloka? A very interesting sloka. Rajabhisheke madavihvalayaha hastachyuto hemagatam tarunyaha sopana margeshu karoti shabdam tadandadandan dadadandadandan. So these kind of beautiful compositions was there. Okay. So now whenever we write a sloka or create poetry in Sanskritam terms, for it to be approved as a sloka, we have to follow a lot of rules. Okay. For example, we were speaking about the akshara, the number of alphabets that's there, right? So every akshara in a row will have a count. For example, if there are 8 aksharas per line and there are 4 lines, then and only then it can qualify the first point of Anushtup Chandas. So any sloka we see in Bhagavad Gita, excluding a few in the 11th chapter and 2nd chapter, most of it follows a pattern called Anushtup Chandas, where every line will have 8 syllables. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha madhavah pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. 8, 8, 8, 8, it will be 32 aksharas. Okay. Even inside that, there are certain rules to be followed. So here is a simple sloka for our understanding. I wrote this sloka on Srinivasa Bhagavan. Here if you see, Sanatanaya Sukshmaya. So 8 aksharas, okay? Yeah, we can repeat. Sanatanaya Sukshmaya. Satyaya Sugunaya Cha. Sampurnaya Sushilaya. Srinivasaya Te Namaha. So here if we notice, there are 8 aksharas for each line. In addition to that, there are some rules like this. The 5th akshara should always be lagu. It should be a small akshara. So I have organized it like this, where if you see the 5th letter of the chandas, so Sanatanaya, ya is small. Satyaya Sugu, gu, lagu is only used, right? So it's also small. Sampurnaya Sushilaya, su is again small. Srinivasaya, ya is also small. So all the 5th have to follow the lagu category. Then Guru, 6th akshara in every word, every line should be Guru, should be long only. So if we swap it, then it cannot be approved as a Anushtup Chandas. So here if you see, Sanatanaya Sukshmaya, Satyaya Sugunaya Cha, Sushilaya, Te, everything, all these should be Dirgha. So 5th is Lagu, 6th is Guru. In the 7th, there is more complication. The 2nd and the 4th have to be the small aksharas. So here, seventh, if you notice, here we've used ya, satyaya sugunaya, hrasva. Similarly, Srinivasayate na hrasva. So these two are there. But the second and fourth have to be dirgha. Samyukta akshara is also considered dirgha. Samyukta means you join a few aksharas, is also considered dirgha. So Sanatanaya Sukshma Dirgha. Here also Sampurnaya Sushila is Dirgha. Only if it abides by all this, you will consider it as a sloka in Anushtup. Just the count does not matter. That's why when any swap happens, we will instantly know. Okay. So even a simple sloka in Anushtup should follow these to be qualified as a sloka in Anushtup. Okay. So let's look at this with that view. There are rules for chandas so that there is no wrong combination that happens. If something wrong happens, people can identify it. Today we say, right, all these are prasikshams, it becomes a prakshiptam. People identify it by all these qualities. Mostly in Veda, all these were followed. The rishis, whatever was told by the rishis, the Harshakavyas follows this. But today, the seventh lakshara and all people are, they don't really follow it much. Unless it is for a kavya or something, casually, they just ensure that it's 8 words, 8 aksharas, that's all. So the rule of the seventh and all is like hardly followed these days. So
grammar part later, using the scriptures, they have, yes,
Panini Maharishi identified. Yeah. So now it's a little more casual that people write slokas. So that is. So let's just recite this. Sanatanaya Sukshmaya Satyaya Sugunaya Cha Sampurnaya Sushilaya Srinivasaya Te Namaha. So today when you go back, just look at some of the slokas you might know, whether they follow this Anushtup Chandas, So we know the rule now. You just apply this rule. Fifth should be Lagu, sixth should be Guru, seventh should always be a small alphabet, eighth should always, 7, 2 and 4 will follow a pattern, 1 and 3 will follow a pattern. So we can check for all these things. Okay. Okay. So we've seen the thing. Now we will go into a very, very important, interesting thing. Okay. We all know about Vedas. We all know about our itihasas. So when we come to itihasas, what are the 2 itihasas? Ramayana and Mahabharata. Why don't we have some more energy? Okay, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Ramayana is called as itihasa. It is not mythology as people commonly use these days. When we hear somebody use it, we should take the stand and say that itihasa is not mythology. Because the word myth has several meanings, and one of the disturbing meaning is that it is untrue, right? People create novels. And we have a itihasa. What distinguishes a itihasa from a purana?
Itihasa is written by a person who is contemporary.
Samakali is. Samakali, a person who is a contemporary. Now, Vālmīki Maharishi lived at the same time as Bhagavan Sri Rama. Vyāsa Bhagavan lived at the same time as Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And they were contemporaries and they wrote it, itihasas. Thus, it happened. They documented everything. Okay. Because it is a documentation, we call it itihasa. When it is retold, now Vyāsa Maharishi had told it to someone. His Sishyas have told it to someone. That is retold. Many Puranas are like that, right? Then it becomes Purana. Pura api navam iti Puranam. It is ancient, but it is so relevant for us even today. Those are Puranas. Pura api navam, Puranam. Okay. Now, out of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are the itihasas, itihasa means documentation of what happened. That is why you will see some good qualities of Ravana mentioned. It is not like villain, right? You write the things as it is. Sometimes we'll be like, why do we need the lineage of so many kings documented here? It is supposed to be one of the Purana Lakshanas, they say. Writing about the lineage is one of the Lakshanas. So it is not about creating interest or writing something, paraparapana says. It's not that. It is calling a spade, writing it as it is. That is very important. Now, between the Ramayana and Mahabharata, the first kavya, the itihasa, is Ramayana. Right? That is why it is called as the Adi Kavya. The one who wrote it is called as the Adi Kavi. Now, my question to you. What is the first poem in this entire world? The first ever poetry. Today we claim, right, this is first, that is first and all that. That is Veda mantra. Vedas are eternal, so we cannot bring that into the category of what is in this human creation. So, the entire world has the first poetry in the Vālmīki Ramayana. And it is a duty for each one of us to know that poem by heart. It is compulsory we know it. It is compulsory we should transfer that knowledge and take pride that this is the first poetry in the human history. Right? So now we are going to see that poetry in our Chandas. So what was that poetry?
Just now you mentioned the Panchakara, the Lakshanam of a Kavyam. Right? One of the things we have to have the lineage.
Pancha Lakshanams of Puranas.
Puranas, not Kavyas.
Puranas.
So in Ramayana we have, as well as in Kavyas also.
Kavya Shastra has different rules. Kavya Shastra has different rules, but there they can mix their karpana with all these things, right? So they will have a lot of additions and all that we can call it differently. But as far as Puranas is concerned, one of the main lakshana is the parampara. Puranas. Itihasas mention as it is. So if that is available, they will mention. It is not a lakshana. Samakalina and mentioning it as it is the lakshana of our itihasas. Okay. Now, coming to the first kavya, very interesting story. Okay. Vālmīki Maharishi is there. What he does is he goes on a stroll. They all do their morning rituals in the Nadi Tira. So Vālmīki Maharishi, along with his disciple Bharadwaja Maharishi and a few other disciples, they go. The place is so beautiful. The river is there. They are walking on the banks of the river. And everything is so soothing, comforting. Nature at its best. They are simple living, high-thinking people. And Vālmīki Maharishi is tapasvadhyaya niratam, tapasvi vagvidambaram, right? So he has complete control of the senses. So his thinking is always on Bhagavan. With that mind, they are discussing about Bhagavan. They are going there. And they are seeing two krauncha pakshis, the cranes. The two cranes are very intimate to each other. So Vālmīki Maharishi is like, what beautiful creation, right? Even the cranes are able to share their love and intimacy with each other. He is admiring everything. At that point, a hunter who was hiding somewhere kills one of the two birds which were so intimate. So Vālmīki Maharishi is now like, irritated, and he says, how can a person be so heartless in killing a krauncha pakshi, one of which is so intimate, right? How can he kill? Because the other pakshi is now filled with like sorrow, and the second pakshi does not know what to do. So what is happening here? So from his mouth comes these words. Ma nishada pratishtham tvam. He curses the hunter. Hey, nishada. Nishada means hunter. Ma nishada pratishtham tvam agama shashvati shama yet krauncham itunadekam. There are two kraunchas. In that ekam, mahati kamamohitam. They were so, filled with lust. You killed one. So you will never have peace of mind. So Vālmīki Maharishi gives a curse to the hunter. Now, after cursing, Vālmīki Maharishi comes back to his original self. He's like, I'm supposed to have all my indriyas under control. Like we said, tapasvadhyaya niratam. He has all his indriyas under his control. How did such a shapa come out of my mouth? That's not possible, right? How did this ever happen? And then he thinks about it. Hunter's work is to hunt. How can I be angry on he doing what he did? this is not correct. So he thinks about it. And as he is thinking, a revelation happens. Hey, look at this. This sounds like the Veda mantras that we usually have. Tapasvadhyaya niradam tapas. Those kind of words come, right? So like that. Ma nishada pratishtam tvam. 8 aksharas. Agamashashvati shama. 8 aksharas. Itkrauncha mitunadekam. Ati kama mohitam. Everything has a pattern. It adds up to 32. I've heard this in Veda mantras. This is the Anushtup Chandas. How did Chandas come out of my mouth? So 32 aksharas, 8 akshara in each line. How did a shapa, that too when I was filled with so much of shoka, come out? So they say, shokat slokam agatam. From the shoka of Vālmīki Maharishi, this sloka came. So shokat slokam agatam, they say. So the first poetry has come out. That's a miracle, that's wonderful. But why should it be a shapa? So Vālmīki Maharishi is discussing with all his sishyas, how can something so wonderful coming out of my mouth be a shapa? Immediately, Chaturmukha Brahma appears in front of Vālmīki Maharishi. He says, do not worry. Under my instruction, Saraswati Devi sat in your mouth to bring out this sloka. So he is like, why a shapa sloka? Right? Why did that happen? He said, think about it. Split it like this. You said nishada. Okay? Ma shanti bhavatu iti. So, the word ma, what does it make you think about? He says, ma is Mata Mahalakshmi. Nishada. The one, Mata Mahalakshmi is Nishada. She is residing somewhere. Who is it? Bhagavan Vishnu. Mata Mahalakshmi eternally residing on Bhagavan Vishnu. This sloka is a Mangala sloka, he says. So just by splitting and distinguishing, the same sloka now gets a totally different meaning about Bhagavan Sri Rama and Sita Devi. So for those who are interested, I've just put the details here, how the splitting actually happened. Ma Nishada Pratish. Earlier it was Nishada, hey hunter, and he was cursing the hunter. But then Ma became Mata Mahalakshmi, Nishada became the place of residence, which is Mahavishnu, and the entire sloka became a Mangala sloka. This has several different meanings actually. One other meaning, people phrase this saying that all the 7 kandas of Vālmīki Ramayana are embedded in this sloka. That is why it becomes a Mangala sloka. So, Manishada initially is about the Balakanta. Then every phrase they take, this belongs to the Sundara Kanda, this belongs to the Aranya Kanda. So, they interpret each of this and they say that all the 7 kandas are included in this particular sloka. So, there are many layers of meaning for this sloka, and this is considered as the first ever sloka we have in this world, which follows the Anushtup Chandas. Based on this, Vālmīki Maharishi developed the entire Ramayana, which is majorly following the Anushtup Chandas pattern. The entire Vālmīki Ramayana follows this pattern. So let's recite this sloka. I will leave. You can repeat after me. Manishada pratishtam tvam agama shashvati samaha yet krauncha mithunadekam avadhi kama mohitam. Once more. Manishada pratishtam tvam agama shashvati samaha yet krauncha mithunadekam avadhi kama mohitam. So even now, if we look at Vālmīki Ramayanam, Bhagavan Vālmīki took these inputs, but he organized the sequence of chapters a little differently. So he started with his interaction with Bhagavan Narada. So the initial few slokas will be on the Kalyana Gunas of Bhagavan Rama. But then Vālmīki Maharishi still uses this sloka. Whatever is the story I explained now, he explains that background in Balakanta itself. So this particular shloka is in the Balakanta. The second adhyaya is the 15th sloka. So we can go and have our reference to that. Okay. So this is the world's first sloka. Try to by heart this, share it with a lot of people, because all these need to be known by our people and feel proud of our heritage, right? So the first ever sloka. Now I'm going to teach two small slokas and then we will wrap for the day to enjoy the Chandas concept. This is a beautiful sloka. In 10 minutes, you will understand the greatness of this sloka. Okay? Vandeham devam tam shritam rantaram kalam bhasayah Ramo Ramadhirapyago Leela Maradyo Yevase. This is a simple, beautiful sloka on Bhagavan Sri Rama. So what does it mean? Vande aham. Aham vande. I offer my salutations. To whom? Tam devam. To that Bhagavan, to that Deva. Shritam rantaram kalam vasayah. Who is filled with effulgence. Bha, we learned, right? Bha means radiance, effulgence. Shritam, he is along with Mata Shri, Rantaram, so he is happy and filled with Bhasayah, filled with radiance. Ramo, which is Ramaha, Ramadhirapyago. Rama, another meaning of Rama means a lady, a woman. Ramadhirapyago. So, the second line actually speaks about Bhagavan searching for Sita Mata. Abhyago, he's searching in all the mountain terrains and all. Now, Sita Mata has been abducted by Ravana, right? So, Bhagavan Rama searches for her. After he kills Ravana, he comes back to Ayodhya. Leela Mara Yodhyevase. He comes back to Ayodhya and happily resides there because Sita Mata is there. So, when Sita Mata is there, Bhagavan is happy, he's effulgent. When he is not there, his mind is filled with Sita Mata. He searches everywhere in all the terrain for Mata. To that Rama, I offer my namaskaras. A very simple sloka. Okay. Vandeham devam tam shritam rantaram kalam bhasayah Ramo Ramadhirapyago Leela Mara Yodhyevase. Okay, so this is one sloka. We will learn one other sloka which is in the similar meter. Later we will understand the details. Sevadyeyo Ramalali Gopyaradhi Mara Mora Essa Balankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vandeham Devam. So Krishna is my favorite. Whenever I speak of Rama, I speak of Krishna. So here Krishna's sloka says that Sevadyeyo Rama Lali. Seva here would mean a kainkarya that we offer to Bhagavan, deep penances, all the austerities that is performed to Bhagavan, only through that Bhagavan Krishna can be obtained. So we have to do seva. So through seva we can attain Bhagavan Krishna's Preeti. Sevadyeyo Rama Lali. Here Rama means ladies, right? Bhagavan Krishna had Ashtamahishis. He tenderly took care of all of them. He spent quality time with all of them, taking care of all of them. Gopya all the gopis do aradhana of Bhagavan Krishna. Gopya Mara Mora. Mara Mora is Mata Mahalakshmi in the Hridaya Kamalam of Bhagavan. She resides always there in the heart of Bhagavan. Yasya Balankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vande Aham Devam. So I worship this Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is, the Bhagavan of the Ashtamahishis, who is worshipped by all the Gopikas, who has got Mata Mahalakshmi in his Hridaya Kamalam. He is filled with all the beautiful alankarams. He is filled with radiance because of his alankaras, He adds radiance to the alankaras, of course. So to that Bhagavan, I offer my namaskaras. Okay, so we'll repeat this Krishna sloka. Sevadhyeyo Ramalali Gopya Radhi Mara Mora Essa Balankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vandeham Devam. So both these are again following the Anushtup Chandas, if you've observed. Okay. The added beauty of this sloka is, we all have heard about palindromes, right? Reading it forward, reading it reverse. And they say that, okay, it should actually mirror the same thing, then it's a palindrome. The two slokas we just learned, you'll be surprised to know that these are slokas which can be read the forward and the reverse way. The first sloka which we discussed is a sloka when you read it in the forward pattern. It gives the sloka on Rama with so much of detailed meaning. The second sloka is nothing but the reverse of the first sloka. It completely tells us the story of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, his Leelas. So this sloka is like this, okay? Vandeham Devam Tam Shritam. So if you look at the second sloka, it is completely the reverse of this. So Ramo Rama Adhirabhyago Leela Mara Yodhyevase, right? So you reverse it. Sevadhyeyo Rama Lali Gopya Radhi Mara Mora Essa Balankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vande Aham Devam. Completely, it is just the reverse, not just reverse, not just a casual poetry. It has so much of in-depth meaning, complete Leelas of Bhagavan. And it is not one sloka, there are 30 such slokas. So 30 means 60 slokas in reality. The first 30 is on Rama. The reverse 30, if you reverse the same 30 slokas, it is on Krishna Leelas. This is called as the Anuloma Viloma Kavya. You read it forward, it is one set of things. Viloma, you read it reverse, it gives you another set of slokas. Anuloma Viloma Kavya. And this particular kavya in that pattern, this is called as the Raghava Yadaviyam. Raghava, when you read it forward, Yadava, when you read it reverse, Raghava Yadaviyam. This was authored by a great devotee, a Kavi, who is called as Venkatadri Kavi. He is from Kanjipuram, an ardent devotee of our Swami Nigamanta Mahadeshika. So he is our Acharya's disciple. He follows Swami Deshika in many of his granthas. When we observe, he's written Lakshmi Sahasram. Lakshmi Sahasram has a lot of things where you can identify it with Paduka Sahasram. So the chitras and all that comes out, right? Chitra Kavyam patterns, you can see that from, Swami Deshika's patterns are, he is inspired by many of those of Swami Vedanta Deshika. So such is the beauty of these Raghava Yadaviya slokas. So we are just seeing a sample here, one sloka, where it becomes two sloka, one on Raghava, one on Yadava. Similarly, there are 29 other slokas. Okay, so 60 slokas on the whole if we take the two patterns. So we will recite this once and conclude for today. Vandeham Devam Tam Shritam Rantaram Kalam Bhasayah Ramo Ramadhirapyago Leela Mara Yodhyevase Sevadhyeyo Ramalali Gopya Radhi Mara Mora Essa Balankaram Taram Tam Shritam Vandeham Devam. Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prahride svabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu.